I've had the privilege of coming to Family Media many times over the years. I have seen impact. I have had preachings. I've had prayer. And listen to me, this work here is massive. How can I be a blessing, I hear you ask? I call on to you, my brother, my sister. Please partner with this great institution. And the way you partner is by helping them continue this great work. And I know somebody is saying, but I don't have much. Guess what? Somebody else is saying the same. If 1 million people say they don't have much, and you put it together, it becomes much. And when the work of God is going on, it's not about how much you give. It's what is left when you give that matters. Today, I urge you from the bottom of my being, be a blessing and partner with Family Media. And your life will never be the same, because as lives are being changed, you have made it possible. And God is a God of blessing people. Anything you partner with is a prayer into the porticos of heaven. So the details are on the screen. Support, support, and support. God bless you.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. Now, have you ever been a victim of fraud? Or have you been a perpetrator of fraud yourself? Okay, no judgment here. We just want to learn together. How can you and I prevent ourselves from being victims of fraud? But also, how can you and I prevent ourselves from being exposed to fraud so that we are perpetrators? Well, that is the conversation that we'll be having this morning as we talk about the fraud triangle. And helping us with this conversation is Mark Bunyi, who is the CEO, Sikori Limited. And I am looking forward to this conversation. This really is what he does on a day-to-day basis. And so he is well versed to the conversation that we'll be having this morning. I'd love to hear from you. If you have been a victim of fraud, please do share with us your experience. We'd love to interact with you. 20316 is our SMS line, 0786 316 316 is our WhatsApp line. But also feel free to give us whatever comment, feedback, or question that you may have as the conversation continues along. For now, let's get right to this conversation. Mark, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Yes, it is.
Now, I know I've done a very sketchy introduction of yourself, and so let me allow you to introduce yourself to our audience even as we continue this conversation.
Okay, then. My name is Mark Bunyi. I've been involved in fraud and fraud investigations for over 20 years.
Wow.
Most of my work has really been around fraud within organizations and what happens there. I've worked across East Africa, and I've worked across very many different sectors. So I've done this in NGOs, I've done it in corporates, I've done it in banks, in insurance companies, and different types of issues around where there is fraud or there are problems. So whether it is procurement challenges, whether it is actual theft of money, theft of stocks, and those kind of issues I have really spent a lot of time reviewing. I've also worked very hard helping organizations put in place controls so as to help deal with this, undertaking surveys so as to understand what are their risks, so as to then be able to address this as they go along.
Yeah, yeah. I am interested in two major things that will form the basis of our conversation today. It's one is what predisposes individuals or organizations to being defrauded, if that is the word, from being victims of fraud. And two, what predisposes individuals, especially to being perpetrators of fraud. So maybe let's begin with the victim side. What really predisposes individuals or organizations to fraud?
So when it comes to individuals, I would probably say what predisposes it is more about what is the awareness level they have about what is currently happening as far as fraud is concerned.
Yeah.
And an easy example of this I'll give is what you normally see happening with the phone calls people receive. So you can get a phone call, you find somebody is calling you and saying, I'm a Kenya Power guy, I'm at your gate, I'm about to disconnect your power unless you send me X amount of money. That is an individual being defrauded. Now, if I don't understand this is happening, I'm not aware, then I will quickly run to making a payment to prevent this. Or the things you see banks sending around quite a bit, reminding people, don't share passwords, don't share this. However credible somebody calls and sounds, please prevent and don't share. Yes. Yeah.
So that is at the individual level. Is it the same if you are a visitor at the CBD? I'm not so sure if that practice still continues. You know, you find these people playing cards. You know, I think it used to be called, is it patapotea? I can't remember. Yeah.
Patapotea.
You know, he ni pesa, he say, you know, is it the same?
It is the same. So we find in those situations what is happening is that an individual is motivated to a quick win. So as an individual, I'm being motivated to quick gain. So I am seeing patapotea, I'll make quite a bit of money within a short period without spending any of my money. And so that's what motivates the individual. The problem with that is you then get blinded to what am I opening myself to? What is the risk here? It's the same thing as when somebody approaches you with a very good deal.
Yeah.
Yes, the deal is too sweet. So always think twice when you see that, because then it means there's likely something else that will go wrong.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And so that is at the individual level. At an organizational level, why is it that some organizations can easily fall prey to fraud? What predisposes organizations?
Okay, so at an organization level, what I would say is that the difference here is that an organization has many different parts. Essentially, in a well-run organization, these different parts work in two ways. One is to promote the activities of the organization, and two, to protect it. So sometimes you find within organizations, or quite a bit you do find within organizations, that there are too many opportunities that have been left open. Some organizations I have found seem to overtrust people, overtrust staff, and so therefore they don't put in appropriate controls. In certain cases, you find that the perpetrators of the fraud understand the controls in the organization and therefore have found ways to work around it. So the problem with fraud is that you're dealing with people who are doing this thing intentionally. It is not a mistake. It is I have every intention to get something that I shouldn't get from you.
Yeah.
And so therefore, as an organization, you need to continuously work to prevent this from happening. So it's not like if I fix it today, it will never happen again.
Yeah.
Yes, because the person will change how he approaches you. Yes.
Somebody has said that the difference between a mistake, there's a very thin line between a mistake and fraud. That same action on one side could be a mistake. So if there's financial loss, for example, in an organization, on one end it could be a mistake, but on the other end it could be fraud. How do you distinguish, between this thin line, as somebody has said, there's a very thin line?
True, there's a very thin line between that. And it's one of the key things that an investigator needs to work hard to be sure that he's distinguishing. And here really you're trying to look for what is the intention in that particular action that somebody did. You tend to find that most fraud tends to be something that has been repeated over time. So if you then find that this has been repeated over time, then it is less likely to be a mistake, because it's less likely to be a genuine mistake. But if you were to find a situation where truly this happened only once, right, then maybe there may be some room there to say there might be a mistake that happened here, but you do need to look around to see what were the intentions in this action that the individual took.
In your line of work, you mentioned that you work a lot with especially organizations. What are some, of course, without mentioning names, but what are some of those, how do I put it, shocking, so to speak, fraud situations? You're called in and you hear, this happened. What are some of those things that you've heard? And, even as you went into the investigation process, just some of the discovery things that will be helpful, even to someone that is tuned in.
Okay. So some of the shocking things I've had, one is in terms of when you listen to the length of time that this fraud was being perpetrated over. So it may be a small thing. It may be a cashier that has been skimming money. But when you listen to how long this has been going on, so you're then hearing that this cashier has been skimming money, say, weekly for more than a year. So you're then they're wondering how, what were people doing, what were people checking around it. Some of the other things that I find amazing is that sometimes you do find fraudsters carefully consider an organization. Think through, how do I get away with what I want to do? So there's one organization I looked at, and for them, what the fraudsters did is that they understood this organization had then taken a stance of being very religious. And so the people who used to lead devotion tended to be the people who were perpetrating fraud.
Oh.
Because what tended to happen in the organization is everybody would put their guard down when I'm dealing with the person leading devotion. And so therefore the fraudsters understood this is how I get away with this. So you do find that fraudsters carefully consider and they look through, how do I get away with this? They look at what does the boss always check for? What does he always ask? Those things that you always check for, always ask, they always make sure they've ticked the box when coming to you with a fraudulent transaction. And that's why you have to continuously change, continuously think what are the new risks that could happen that I need to then work around. Yes.
Let's talk about trust, because you mentioned it earlier, and it sort of comes back again, in that case you've given where the people leading the devotion, that's such a sad thing, are the people who are committing fraudulent, because honestly you wouldn't think, because those people I think in organizations are called pastors, so you wouldn't imagine that the pastor is the one committing fraudulent deals. This whole idea of trust, then how am I, both at individual and organizational level, how do I still trust people but yet not expose myself to fraud? Because it seems like one of the entry point, so to speak, has to do with an element of trust.
Yes, it has to do with an element of trust. In organizations, there has to be continuous verification, continuous checking. And this needs to be done across everyone within the organization. You can never really tell who will be the fraudster, who will not be the fraudster. One of the key things in organizations is building the right culture within the organization. And truly speaking, what I have seen is that in organizations, people look at the leaders. People look at what are they doing? What is the tone from the top? If the tone from the top is better, you then find that organization is stronger and able to prevent fraud from happening. And I would say that's the same thing with individuals. If people then realize this individual has this kind of morals, treats people fairly, is always this, then you'll tend to find that around you, you have the same sort of people around you and you're able to then operate. But I would always say that as much as you trust, there are instances you always have to verify. You always have to make sure things are being done in line with what is agreed.
So trust, I think there's a leadership principle there. Trust but verify.
Yes.
So you trust, but you still verify.
True.
And so in other words, no one really, you can't say anyone is safe. So you can't suspect this one and give this one a free pass. Everyone has, in a sense, to go through the same system.
Yes. And for an organization, the key here is about build the culture. And build it in everything that you do. Build it in when you're bringing in new people. Are you checking that there are people who will fit within your culture? Whether these are individuals coming to work with you, whether these are new suppliers you're bringing on board, are you checking their background? Are you checking that I'm trying to make sure I bring in the right people? When you bring them in, are you driving the right culture in them? Are you driving the right culture in your organization? So as to then manage or keep fraud within what is manageable for your organization. Yes.
Since you've mentioned organizational culture, I am wondering how much our particular cultural, especially as it has to do with upbringing, influences whether we will be predisposed to fraud or not. And in this case, I'm thinking as a perpetrator. So in your experience, have you found that there are more cases of fraud within particular environments compared to others? So for example, you've done extensive work in East Africa. Would you argue that maybe there are lesser cases of fraud in Kenya, see what I did there, compared to the other East Africa countries? And is there something that influences that, so to speak?
So there's some research I read some time back, and essentially it looked at human beings over a period of time and came up with certain percentages. So essentially it said that there's around, say, 5% of people who are inherently good, And generally, this population of people would not do anything wrong. They would not be a fraudster. It's not in them. There's also a percentage of people, about say between 5 to 10%, that are inherently bad. These are people who something went wrong in their upbringing, and they will be criminals. They will be bad. They will be fraudsters, and there's nothing you can do about it. Then there's the majority of us. The majority of us are in between, and we are swayed either way, either depending on what are the opportunities, the pressures we are going through at a particular point in time in our lives. So it's not that they are always fraudulent. It might be that at a particular point in time, there's too much pressure that the person is facing, and therefore he decides that, look, the way out of this is to get something that I am not entitled to. It reduces the pressure for some period of time. For some people, they never go back to being fraudulent. For others, they then see that this is a way to continue making money, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Since you've mentioned that, the whole idea of pressure, I was reading somewhere about this whole idea of the fraud triangle, where, you know, when these three things sort of merge, then the likelihood that fraud will occur is very high. I think there's opportunity, there's need. You know, do you mind just telling us about that?
So the fraud triangle is a theory that's been there for a very long time. So what there is within the fraud triangle is that there are three sort of elements that tend to happen. So one, is there an opportunity? So let me give an easy example in stock loss. Is there an opportunity means your procedures about how goods leave your organization are not strong enough. There's no watchman who writes things down, something like that. So then there's an opportunity, that exists there. Is there pressure? Is a particular individual feeling certain pressure? So I'll give the Kenyan context. There is a lot of pressure currently in Kenya. There is no money flowing in the country. So people are feeling a lot of pressure. The burdens you have, the loans you have, the school fees you have, that is creating pressure within people. So people are now looking for opportunities for how to make money. And this could sort of push people towards being fraudulent. And then the last one is that there is rationalization. You find somebody now is able to rationalize and say, look, they've not been paying me enough for the last 3 years. Last year or 2 years ago, my performance was very good. I should have gotten a bigger bonus. The fact that the country didn't do, or the company didn't do too well, I feel, no, I should have earned more. So that rationalization then enables somebody to then say, it is okay for me to get away with what I am doing. There is an element that's recently been talked about that needs to be considered within this, is in capability. So you then find that we're now moving a lot more into, say, the digital world. And so people are now starting to look at and say, does this person have the capability to achieve this?
Yeah.
There are things that people are able to do with IT these days, if I give IT as an environment, where you then say, I have worked on something to give security, but then there's somebody who has a better capability. I have seen challenges in organizations, especially when new IT systems are brought on, where you find those who understand the system faster or catch up faster with the system are then able to perpetrate fraud while others are slowly catching up. Yes.
Wow, that capability aspect is scary. Does it mean then the young people are more capable than the older ones, just based on that whole idea of they are a bit more techno-savvy?
Well, technology is one example in terms of that. I wouldn't say it is an age thing, that the younger are more capable than the older. You may find capability in terms of levels. So I am the CEO of the organization, so I am capable to push my way through, right? And that is what then enables me to be able to perpetrate fraud without people following through. So that capability is something that you also need to think about when you're looking at what has happened as far as fraud is concerned. Yes, in technology, probably the younger people may be seen to be more capable than the older. But I would not say that it is an age issue.
Yes. Okay. So then when you advise organizations about prevention of fraud, then does it touch on these things? Does it touch on, you know, do your systems allow for opportunity? Do your systems allow for, you know, somebody under pressure to take advantage? Is that some of the areas that you look at?
So when advising organizations, you tend to advise organizations that there are 5 key pillar areas that you need to look at when you're looking at how do we prevent fraud. So first is, what is the governance around fraud prevention? So within governance, we're looking at things around what is the tone at the top? who is responsible within your organization for managing fraud? Who's is it that has got a day-to-day responsibility for doing this? How high is that person in your organization structure? Some organizations have a higher predisposition to fraud than others. So, for example, people in the financial services sector, because of the amount of money available there, they then experience fraud a lot more. Or say you're in an area or something like a supermarket, fast moving goods, that has a different type of fraud, say stock theft, but that moves forward. So that's a first. The second one is about assessments. Do you periodically take assessments to look at what are the risks of fraud within the different parts of the business that are there? And when you're taking this assessment, is there clarity about, is this fraud risk or is this just any other risk we're worried about? We then look at what are the actions you're taking to prevent fraud, what are the actions you're taking to actually detect fraud. So what are you actively doing to find fraud within your organization? And then lastly is, what will you do when you confirm there has been an incidence of, or suspect there's an incidence of fraud? How is an investigation to be undertaken? Who is going to undertake this? Is it internal? Is it external? In detection, I would say one of the key things I found that is really helpful is having a process that allows whistleblowers to come forward and give you information. I've found a lot that within an organization, your own staff know quite a bit about what is happening within your organization. Give them an avenue to come forward when they think something is going wrong. Yes.
The thing that I would be interested in is, how can you make whistleblowing desirable? Because I don't know if you're like me, but in the environment I grew up in, there was a term, I don't even know how to translate that term in English. It's called mtiaji. And I'm wondering, how do you make whistleblowing desirable so that the employee or whoever is not thinking, I don't want to be called a snitch. I think that is the closest equivalent. But before you respond to that, I want us first to take a pause. Okay. Go on a short break, and then when we come back, we continue with this conversation. How can we make whistleblowing desirable? And in fact, I'm wondering, you who is tuned in, do you think whistleblowing is a good thing, whether at an organizational level or even at a national level? If you see something, do you think reporting it, which is what we call whistleblowing, do you think it's a desirable thing, or do you think being called a snitch is the worst thing ever? Please do share with us. 20316 is our SMS line. 0786316316 is our WhatsApp line. Well, before we listen to this, feel free, as we take this short break, to be able to, again, donate to the work that we do here. You can use our paybill number 316316, and for account, just write your phone number. And then after this, we come back and we respond to that question, whether whistleblowing can be made to be desirable. See you after this.
Family Media has been here for over 25 years, and now I'm part of that. For me, it fills me with a lot of happiness and excitement, because my drop in the ocean has contributed to that. So to me, it's an excitement, because we have seen media houses that begin and then they flop midway. But I'm excited that this media house is continuing.
I'm very happy and very proud of Family Media for that great work they have done. Starting something like this and managing it, propelling it, sustaining it, despite the tough economic times, is very inspiring. I know so many people have been touched. I have been touched. And all I can say is that I pray that God sustains this ministry, that God sends more people to give towards this ministry so that it can continue growing and so that the impact can continue being bigger and greater.
Even when there's Netflix, there's all this Hollywood, there's all this noise, we need something that will just point us home, because amidst all this noise, when you sit down, you'll feel empty. But now when you listen to Family, it will point you to Christ. And be like, it doesn't matter what you're going through, there is that emptiness that you feel that only Christ can feel.
This is the best cause, because you're saving a soul.
I'll encourage someone to give because of your call and your mission to keep Jesus on the airwaves. There's someone there, Bundus. They just need to hear one word and they will be delivered. And that is through you guys, through media.
I want to say a heartfelt thank to our faithful partners, our generous sponsors, and the companies who believe in the mission Jesus gave us. You've made it possible to keep the light burning. If I look what's happening in the world around us and the money they spend to bring all the noise to us, well, doesn't help us at all. Let's think about the message of Jesus Christ. We should use our gold, our prayers, and everything we have to keep Jesus on the airwaves. And that's why I'm asking you, don't keep only Jesus on the airwaves, but let's do with more and more to show the world that he's still alive.
Indeed, we are grateful to all of our partners that journey alongside us and come alongside us in keeping Jesus on the airwaves and bringing you impactful conversations and stories like this. And so please, let's continue keeping Jesus on the airwaves. Let's continue journeying along together. This is Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. My name is Elijah Mokaya, your host, and our guest for today, helping us unpack this conversation on the fraud triangle, is Mark Bunyi, who's the CEO of Sikori Limited. And so I want us to get right back into it. I had asked a question whether whistleblowing is something that can be made desirable, and that is what I am hoping we can hear from our guest. But I wonder what your thoughts are on that particular subject. If you're able, also share with us your own fraud experience if you've been a victim. It will be interesting to hear if you have been a perpetrator, but for now, just if you've been a victim. Well, Mark, karibu.
Asante.
Yeah, so whistleblowing, how can we make it desirable? Because like I mentioned, I think one of the things we are, in a sense, taught from a very early on is don't be a snitch, don't be that guy. And so we will see crime, we will see fraud, we will see anything happening, but of our dead bodies, will we report that incident? So what can we do in terms of changing that cultural norm?
Okay. So one of the key things is in terms of driving an understanding within the organization that whistleblowing is really about protecting the organization. So you work in this organization, you make a living from this organization. So the more it thrives, the more it lasts, then the better for you and the better you continue earning. Number two, it needs to be understood that whistleblowing is not an avenue to deal with vendettas. So as an organization also, you need to make it clear to people that, look, if somebody comes through whistleblowing and we are clear this is vendetta, it has got no factual, no real reason for why it was being reported, it's just using this to settle scores, then action should be taken against that kind of a person, because what that does by allowing that to continue in whistleblowing is that it kills the fact that people are doing this genuinely so as to help the organization. I would say those for me would be the two key things that you need to be aware about when you're driving awareness within your organization about whistleblowing. You then need to make avenues available that people are comfortable to use. So you may find some people are more comfortable to, say, pick a phone call and explain what has happened. Some people are more comfortable writing something anonymously. Some other people are very comfortable to come and meet management and explain to them what happened without an issue. So you do need to make sure that you have got clear avenues that are available. And lastly, you need to take action when something is reported. So if something is reported, by action, I mean you need to first make sure that you go out and try and verify, is this true or not true, right? If it is true, then you take action based on it. You then say complete an investigation, you then determine what needs to be done, if there's disciplinary processes, if there's control improvements, those need to be done. Because I assure you what happens is the person who whistleblew is looking out to see is something being done. And if he sees, yes, something was done, yes, action was taken, he then becomes your advocate in the organization. Your silent advocate going around. When people are saying it doesn't work, he might be the person saying, no, it works. He may not give a specific example, but he becomes a silent advocate.
So you're saying how we deal with reports that come our way go a long way in either barring or enabling fraud to continue?
Yes. Within an organization, it does go a long way. Because if you receive reports and you continuously don't look into them, right? That drives a narrative within the organization. That drives a culture in the organization that here, It's only when a particular person is reported, or when a particular say, sometimes you find an organization, it's only things in a particular department that are looked into, other departments are not. You then sort of driving a culture that there's some sort of favorism that works within this organization. And therefore you then find that your fight against fraud becomes a problem. You find people willing to come forward and tell you what they saw becomes a problem. Yes. I've seen within whistleblowing an organization where they brought in whistleblowing, they went out and they spent a lot of time with staff all the way down at shop level. It's a very big organization, all the way down at shop level. They spent a lot of time with the individuals and the staff. And what they started seeing coming through whistleblowing was things that were even improving quality of the product.
Oh.
Because you see now staff were clear about, oh, this is a place where I can say something that helps deal with an issue. So when the staff were to find, look, there's a product that has come in that's the wrong quality, they would go and whistleblow.
Yeah.
So then they started seeing that there's a benefit to that. The advantage of that is that it became clear in the organization that, look, this is not snitching. It's about improving our organization. Yes.
And I'm just wondering, why are we so fixated on that? I don't want to be a snitch. What is it about us that it's such a big deal?
It's difficult for someone to openly come out to report a fellow person. And I find that within Kenya, it's a very difficult thing. Our culture in Kenya doesn't seem to openly allow for this to be happening. It is slowly changing. What also helps is when people understand that, look, I am not the person reporting, I am not the problem. The problem is the person perpetrating the fraud.
Yeah.
He is the one actually causing a problem, not me. Yes.
Okay. Now, you said 5% are inherently good, 5% are inherently evil. A majority of us are in between.
Yes.
Now, how do I prevent myself from the other 5% who are inherently evil? So in a sense, how do I prevent myself as an individual working in an organization at whatever level? How do I put mechanisms around me as a person, whether the organization has or doesn't, so that I am not exposed to fraud?
You need to know what are your limits. You need to be clear about what are my limits, what is the maximum, what is the amount. When I'm in this much pressure, it's too much. Where do you go out for release? Who do you go see? Who do you go discuss with? How do you get this? As an organization, you also need to understand how do we then support people who are going through certain difficulties. I'll give an example. Again, it's a story I've heard about Abraham Lincoln, a great president of the US. So before he was president, he was a lawyer. Someone came to see him and told him that, look, I have killed someone and I need you to defend me because you're a good lawyer. So the person offered, say $100. Abraham said no. The person continued increasing the offer. And at a certain point, when it reached that amount, Abraham Lincoln actually kicked the person out of the office. So this person went, got a different lawyer, and after some years came back and asked him, so how come we held a discussion, I was giving you various offers, all this time you were not giving me, it was not a problem, why did you kick me out at a certain point? And Abraham Lincoln told him, because you are coming very close to the price at which I would not be able to say no. Right? So as an individual, you then also do need to understand, at what point have I gone too far?
Yeah.
What is my method? What is it that I can do to then stop from going overboard? Yes. That is something that you need to think about.
Yeah.
What I've seen organizations do when it comes to pressure is various things. So for example, during, say, it's financial pressure, the organizations will then do education for staff in terms of explaining what is it, how do you manage money, those kind of things. It's an attempt to try and deal with this pressure. Maybe helping the organization link up with people who can give loans, who can give certain things. Right? Giving opportunity for staff to openly air what are their current problems that they are going through, and how then does an organization do you think about what can we do to try and manage. And managing doesn't mean that as the organization I need to spend resources on this, but I could give an avenue for, say, education. I could give an avenue for, say, counseling. I could make sure that I incorporate something in, say, our medical program that enables people go for counseling. Those kind of things are things that are important for organizations to think about, and also helps individuals understand when I reach too much, what are the avenues I can reach out to help me. Yes.
From your experience, is there a likelihood that if one is caught up in a fraudulent situation, that more likely they will continue. What does that look like, usually, from your own experience?
Yes, there are some who will continue. There are some people who, when caught up with the situation, it becomes the easy way out. So I'm a cashier, or yes, I'm in charge of stocks. I have seen that there's a way I can get away with taking a box every week. That box every week relieves me of certain pressure. At some point, I get so used to it that it becomes the norm. I no longer think of it, because I've rationalized it very well.
Yeah.
I no longer think of it as theft, and so it becomes the norm. There are some other people who do it once, twice, and they actually break down. They're like, no, I can't continue doing this. They feel very guilty about what they've been doing. Some will even come and confess about what it is that they've done. So again, it's really about the individual's predisposition. It's not definite that if I did it once, I will always continue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see what Mr. John Githanga is saying here. He's saying, now that this topic has cropped up at Kanu House in Nakuru CBD, there's a... Oh! Okay, of con artists that have been conning passers-by daily for nearly 3 years now, masquerading as, you know, one of the telecom company's reward givers by stealing their victims' phone pins. Wow. They've swindled hundreds of people of stupendous money, but our efforts to solve these persistent fraudsters have not been so successful. The street conmen and women work in cahoot with the police. How can you help Nakuru people through your organization? Because this is a case where the perpetrators are protected by the law enforcers from, you know, the police. Wow. What does someone do in an instance like that? This is somebody who's feeling now helpless, because we know these people are fraudsters. What else can we do if the law enforcers don't seem to be doing anything about it?
I've seen in Kenya that one of the ways this kind of issue is dealt with, and seems to be very effective, is it becomes more, information rolls more out on social media. When people see it spread more, then people start becoming hesitant of agreeing to perpetrate this, because this might be picked up by someone.
Yeah.
Right? So I would then say, publicize this more. If it's a particular street, publicize it more. People will then become aware about it. Those who've been defrauded by them, then also them tell your story, so that then other people see. As much as I have worked very many years in fraud and trying to deal with fraud, I've also been defrauded. It is a reality.
Tell us the story.
There is no guarantee that because right, I do this a lot, that I will not get defrauded. Right? There are sometimes my guard is down. There are sometimes I've seen something and I've seen that deal looks good. I've paid on the internet, and then after that I've realized, that was a mistake. Right? But this is something then, when you continuously tell the stories, when people understand and see this, then hopefully their guard gets up more.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll see there's a lot of SMSs going around. There's a lot of companies sending information to their customers about not sharing your PIN, right? Now, unfortunately, the fraudsters have understood this, and you then find that they are finding more and more ingenious ways of appealing to you, meeting you at a certain point, right, when your guard can be down, and therefore then, or creating a situation that makes it look like, make you see that, look, this looks real. Let me deal with something. Right? You could get an SMS that tells you your child is about to be kicked out of school. Maybe it's true, you hadn't yet paid school fees. Right? But they're just guessing. Right? And now in how you react, some of them have become very good at picking up, oh yes, this one looks like he has this problem. And then they now dig into you easily, and then they get you to release certain information that allows them access. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And so, Mr. John Githanga, I hope that is useful. Publicize those people. Let it be known that there are street conmen taking advantage of unsuspecting Kenyans, and hopefully, you know, that vice will come to an end. You had mentioned, when we talked about the fraud triangle, this whole idea of rationalization. Do you think it's part of what we are suffering as a country, especially when you consider the political class and the various fraudulent deals they're involved in? Is there a level of rationalization that, you know, I deserve this, what I'm doing is not wrong, kind of a thing?
Yes, it's possible that that's part of it. There's also the thing about others before me have done it, why shouldn't I do it? Sort of works within rationalization. There's the issues that I see a lot about where do we start? So one of the problems I see in Kenya is that we seem to be having a real struggle with where do we start in terms of fighting when it comes in, especially at leaders level. Which ones do we start with? Do we start with the ones currently doing it? Do we start with the ones who did it years before? Where do we start? Yes, that's one of the challenges.
Okay. What will you advise? Where should we start? What do you think? If this were an organization, okay, maybe at a national level it seems too complex, but if there's an organization where there was a culture of fraud, you know, this has always been, this procurement officer comes in and finds a practice that has been going on. Incidentally, is that why people really loved to do procurement as a course? Is part of the reason the access that it gave them?
There is that theory that yes, within procurement I will have access to people and therefore that they will want to pay me something. Essentially corruption, because they want to get something from the organization and so they want to get. So then some people see procurement as a place to go into. To your question in terms of where do you start as an organization in dealing with fraud, you need to draw the line and decide we are starting today. You need to be clear about when we start, which method do we want to start with.
Yeah.
So do we want to start with a clean slate? So there is an organization I once saw that they decided to start with a clean slate. What was their approach to a clean slate? They noticed that there was a particular fraud, I think it was within the stocks. They opened a window for 2 months and then told people, anyone who reports themselves within these 2 months, we will not take action against you, right? But once this window closes and we are going to do an investigation and we find you are involved and had not reported yourself, then we will take action against you. And that was their clean slate start. But as an organization, you need to then decide you need to start now if you want to survive, right? That is the reality.
Okay. Now, as we are gearing towards, you know, bringing this to a conclusion, we have maybe just about 7 minutes to this. What then are some of the other things that you would like us to appreciate and understand when it comes to this question of fraud?
There is the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners that's been, it normally does a research, and this is publicly available on the internet. I believe it's every 2 years, and it's called a report to the nations. When you look at that report, one of the things that is becoming a big concern is that there is a lot more collusion happening when it comes to fraud. So collusion before was mainly left to what we considered to be corruption.
Yeah.
But now you're finding that within an organization, people are working across departments to perpetrate a fraud. So say somebody in finance and somebody in sales are working together. Normally what we would expect is that there is segregation of duties and that helps us balance our controls. But now we are seeing this is a lot more.
Yeah.
So then organizations need to find a way to work a lot more with this issue in terms of how do you then work around the part that people across departments are starting to work more and more with each other. How do we get insights and how do we get this information?
Yeah.
Right? What controls do we do? What IT do we put in place that helps us deal with these challenges? That's one of the key things that I would say. Number two, I would say as individuals, you really do need to think about what are my limits. You need to think about truly agreeing to live within your means. If rather than looking to live beyond your means, look to live within your means. I always believe that it is better to have a clean life, earn your money legally, earn your money cleanly, and you'll have a successful life. Yes. And in real sense, it's really about what impact do you create, what impact do you have in your family, what is your reputation by the end of the day when you leave this world.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the reason, and I'm widely guessing here, maybe the reason why some people continue in fraud is it seems to be the lucrative deal. You know, there are no consequences, somebody would think. They've seen those before them, you know, amassed for themselves wealth or whatever. What then would you argue are the consequences of fraud? That perhaps there are people who are deterred by the fact that this thing may lead me into particular dangers. Are there consequences to fraud?
Yes, there are consequences to fraud, but sometimes they are not very clear to people. In terms of does this really last? What is the quality of life you will have if this were found, or if, say, for example, somebody took you to court because of what you've perpetrated as a fraud? What is the quality of life you're living for your family, right? And in your rationalization, what is it that you have then decided to block out so as then to be able to continue with what you're doing, so as to live with what you are doing? So those are consequences that sometimes fraudsters don't think about very much. I think in this country we need better role modeling, right? So that then people are able to see that actually you can live a successful life without having to perpetrate either fraud or be involved in corrupt deals, that kind of thing. That's very important for our country, so as to then drive the culture in the right direction and drive a narrative that people are able to back. Yes.
All right, thank you. In the event that maybe someone wants to reach out to you, do you offer services only to organization or as an individual? Is there a way in which I could access your services? But please let us know then, if somebody wanted to reach out for your services, how they can do that.
Okay, yes. Yes, you can reach out for services. I provide services to organizations. Depending on what an individual is looking for, I would look at it and then determine whether it's something that I'm able to do. Also within organizations, there are certain aspects that I may not be the right consultant for, but yes, I do provide services. You can reach out to me at info@sikori.ke. And then we'll be able to look at your situation and see what it is that we are able to assist with. Yes.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mark Bunyi. Thank you for enlightening us on this whole question of fraud. It is my prayer that, not just at organization level, but even at a country level, that will have people, like you've said, that are content to living within their means, and will have less and less fraud. So asante sana, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Asante sana. Well, we have come to the end of our conversation for today. We've been talking about the fraud triangle. I hope that there are some lessons you've learned so that you're not a victim of fraud, either as an individual or the organization that you're part of, but also so that you're not a perpetrator of fraud. If you're able to take note of the things that predispose you to either being a victim or perpetrator, then you will stand a better chance. So thank you for joining us. This is what we do here at Motivation Monday. We bring you challenging conversations. Who knew that we could learn so much from a conversation on fraud? And so it is my prayer and hope that you will apply these things to your life, but also that you can be a whistleblower. Don't care so much that people will call you a snitch, or even the worst, sharing term, mtiaji. No, when you consider the good that it brings to the organization you're in, or even to our nation, and then you're able to do the right thing, even if your image is at stake. And so please let us apply these things. This is it from us. But before I go again, thank you so much to our partners for continuing to, just journey along with us. It takes a lot to put up shows like this. I mean, we are just the face of this, but there are people behind the scenes, directors, producers, people in broadcasting, people doing this and the other. Quite some many moving parts. But also we have men and women like yourself, partners that also come alongside us, because it takes a lot to put shows like this on air. And so consider being one of our partners. Send an SMS to 20316 and somebody will get back to you. But also feel free to donate if you have the ability, even right now. Adalia shared our pay bill number, which is 316, but also we have a cooperative bank account that you can donate whatever it is that you have ability to. The number is 0113 6000 799100. The account name is TBN Family Media. Thank you for joining along with us, and thank you for joining in for this conversation. It is my prayer and hope that it has been a blessing to you. We'll see you next Monday for another set of Motivation Monday conversation. See you then.